Synthetic transactions give you a way to test applications, test web servers, and make sure that the functionality is as you expect. So synthetic transactions serve no business value. It may look like legitimate credit card transactions, may look like legitimate user transactions, but the point of them is not to generate revenue or anything like that. It's meant to test the system and make sure that it's functioning as you intend it to do. Make sure that the programming is correct, the security controls in place, the infrastructure is all working. So you have this notion of dummy or mock transactions or interactions that are being done for testing purposes. You can synthesize users, services, transactions, events. Any of that sort of stuff can be scripted as part of a test. And it's used in both production environments and testing pipelines to make sure that the application that you've got is really doing what you think it's doing. There are two kinds of synthetic transactions. There are passive transactions where there's no residual effect on the system. Might be like a scripted website visitor or some bot visiting the website, clicking on buttons just to make sure that links work okay. And then there are active testing or active synthetic transactions where the interaction with the website causes something. So the user or the script creates an order and then actually submits the order with some test credit card data. And you test the whole process from user creating an order, submitting it through the actual system to see how it works. A good example of synthetic transactions are testing websites for different browser compatibilities. You can use sites like BrowserStack or Browserling to actually do a bunch of synthetic transactions, for lack of a better word, on your website and see how your website responds in 20 different versions of IE, 40 different versions of Firefox, and it gives you a way to synthetically test out your website and make sure that it's going to work with various browser combinations. Synthetic transactions can also be used in performance monitoring applications. So you can set up a bunch of transactions to look at how is my website performing over the course of 24 hours, over the course of a week, and from different geographic areas. So you can get really good data on how your website is actually performing under various user conditions just using synthetic transactions. And the way you would do this is you create a bunch of behavior scripts that are supposed to simulate an action or some type of end-user interaction that they would take with a system. These synthetic transactions are then created and executed according to whatever script you create. And then the output from that is actually monitored at specific intervals to see, all right, how is our website performing? Are we looking for performance, functionality, availability, response times? You can even do security aspects in here as well. But these synthetic transactions give you the ability to test your site against a wide range of criteria. As an example, you might have a client generating some type of request for resources, just viewing a web page. Let's just say it's a GET request for index.html. You can create a set of synthetic transactions or scripts that go and test this, just simply getting the web page from different geographic regions at different times of the day. And you can create reports of statistics based on, okay, so at certain times of the day, we're seeing performance degradation from certain parts of the world. And can be very, very valuable from the standpoint of being able to fine-tune your performance, add capacity, and make sure that your servers and applications are actually able to withstand the load that they're being introduced to. From a continuous testing or continuous integration perspective, you can do software testing with all of these synthetic transactions as well. With continuous integration, there's this notion that you have development builds are being integrated into your mainline build on a regular basis, maybe once a day, maybe several times a day. But with a continuous integration process, it's vitally important that you test the result of these builds to make sure that your main line still works as it's expecting to. And so you can create synthetic transactions to test things like functionality, security, performance aspects of it. And you can integrate these synthetic transactions, this type of testing, into unit tests, integration tests, functional tests. I mean, it can all be very flexible. But again, if you're using a continuous integration process, you really want to make sure that what you're introducing into the build throughout the day or throughout the week is actually working. And you can use synthetic transactions for that. Finally here, I'll leave you with an example on what this would actually look like from a test environment and from a production environment. So in the test environment, there usually isn't any kind of live data. So the first step in the process here is to provision some type of test database. With that, your script is going to go and create a mock user or a test user. Then that script's going to go in, log in the user, place an order, and then monitor the processing of that order and make sure that that whole process works well. It'll capture all the results of that, and then it'll clean up after itself by deleting the test database, deleting the mock user that it created, and report out the results. Now, that exact same script, minus the provisioning aspects of it, can be used here in the production environment to do the exact same test. So just because it works here on the test environment doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the production environment. But you definitely want to start there in the test environment. So here in production, again, you might create a mock user here. That's the exact same step as you saw in the test environment. Logging in, placing an order, that's the same as the test environment. Processing the order is the same as the test environment. You're cleaning up the mock user, again, same as what you did in the test environment. But you're also deleting anything out of the database that you created as part of this test. So that's where things start to differ. On the test side, you were creating a database and a bunch of information to support this transaction. On the production side, you don't have to create that. But because it's a test, it's using synthetic transactions, you want to clean all that up before you are done with the test on the production environment. And what you now end up with is reports of both the test environment and the production environment that tell you, here's what this process did. Was it successful? Were we able to place an order? Were the credit card transactions able to go well? And you can do all of that through synthetic transactions.